Hey y'all, good morning. Welcome to Daddy's Right Here Live. I'm your man as always, Shabir Aleem. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, right? Another day above ground, another opportunity to help somebody else, right? Because helping others is what ultimately helps me, right? And you find that when you invest your time, energy, and efforts into doing things for other people, that it takes you outside of yourself. And I don't know about you, but for me, it gives me a sense of joy, accomplishment, and a whole lot of other positive feelings because, you know, we're created to be very selfish, and getting ourselves in alignment with right conduct, with right living, with our purpose, you know, is something that is always difficult to do. And it has nothing to do with maturity. It has nothing to do with desire, but it has everything to do with, from conception, people's opinions, views, perspectives, biases, all of those things have been forced, not just upon us, but into us. So we have been conditioned by everybody. Everybody has had a role, some more significant than others, but everybody has had a role in our conditioning. And it's easy for people to say, well, you know, when you get older, you know, or here's the term, when you know better, you do better. But it's sometimes very difficult to make the distinction between knowing and doing and better. Because when you come up trusting your parents, for instance, or whoever your caretaker may have been, your caretakers may have been in your life, you come to trust them. They become the holy grail, right? That this, whatever it is that they say, is law. It's the gospel. It's fact. Don't you say nothing about Miss Mary. Miss Mary's always helped me. Yeah, you say those kind of things, and then like you trust all these things that people say. It's natural. It's a natural thing to do, to gravitate toward those who are close to you and ask them questions and watch them. So it's not only what's being said, it's what's being shown that we're being conditioned by. And as infants, we're being held and we're being given messages at that point in time in our life. We're being given messages as to how we should act. Don't do this. Don't do that. Put your feet down. Put your feet up. Turn over. Let me wipe your butt. I don't understand any of those things that you're saying. All I know is that you're pulling me and you're doing this to me. You're doing all these different things to me. And I'm just responding accordingly. And I find that when I respond to a situation in a particular manner and I'm looking at your face, right, I'm seeing a smile. Right? So we begin to equate a smile with right conduct. I want you to understand that. I want you to clearly understand that, because it's important to know a lot of things about your development from infancy all the way up, because these are the things that have conditioned most of who you are today. The other stuff that comes along, when we enter into those stages of learning on ourselves, that independent learning stage, right? We begin to take the independence that we're so desperately seeking, and we begin to enwoven or enweave those things that we have learned, right? Together. We begin to put them all together. See, those things that are a foundation are there. They're not going anywhere. They're already set. So everything else that we learn, we take that and we begin to piece them together. And we begin to, create our own Frankenstein monster. We become that Frankenstein monster that someone else, that others have created. And then everybody gets away from you when they start seeing themselves show through you. They begin to move away from you. It's always the positive things that they gravitate toward. But when they see those negative behaviors, those behaviors that are reminiscent of their own, they want to move away from you. They want to label you. They want to identify you as being beastly, for lack of a better word. Something wrong with him. Something wrong with her. She remind me of me when I was that age. Well, why wouldn't she? You conditioned her to be that way. Therefore, that means that those behaviors still exist within you as an adult. That's why she acts that way. Not only the genetic connection, but it's what I see before me, what I still hear coming from you, what I still see coming from you. Those things that you told me you used to, that you used to be that way when you were younger. And here you're still doing those things as an adult, and you're only seeing it presented right before you by your own child. You see it. You're looking right at it. You're looking right at it. And you don't like what you see. And we've been talking for the last 3 episodes about boys, right? Boyhood, manhood, the missing equation, the EQ, the emotional intelligence that is missing from most of our boys. Most. Can't say all because I haven't, but most. Most of our boys are missing emotional intelligence because we are only on 2 stations: angry and rageful. There's only 2 stations that we're ever given to listen to. The only 2. We've come so far in this life. We've come so far in this life that we have only acquired 2 stations that we can listen to. And everything else comes at a price for us. It comes on the heels of a lot of traumatic experiences. It comes on the heels of a lot of pain and suffering. It comes on the heels of being totally broken down spiritually, mentally, to begin to understand that I'm a human being, that I hurt just like my sister does, that I bleed just like my sister does, that I internalize life's experiences much like my sister does, but just in a different way. But I still deal with the same stuff that my sister deals with. Yet and still you keep putting me back into this box because that's where it's most comfortable for you. That's where it's most comfortable for you. And I often hear this term over and over again: a real man. What the hell is a real man? And everybody comes up with all these definitions of what a real man is. And this is the information that's passed on to little boys. This is what a real man is. Drink this. You're a real man now. That's my boy. You're going to be a good man. Excuse me. Right? Hit this, hit that. All these poor messages They're poor messages. And it comes from both the men and the women. It becomes so confusing because a woman wants something different, sees something different than what a man is, or what manhood is. And we have so many single parent driven homes that are primarily driven by the mother, right? So then you have a perspective that's becomes ingrained within the child, especially more so if the father is uninvolved. If the father is physically involved, that's just one thing, but is the father emotionally involved in himself? What is his emotional intelligence like? And his emotional intelligence is reflected in how he interacts with the mother. How he interacts with the mother. Is he learning about how to improve that relationship, or does he keep saying the same thing over and over and over again? That be this, that be that, she ain't this, she ain't that, she did this, she did that. What the hell does that have to do with fatherhood? What does it have to do with motherhood? Listen, we've all made the mistake. We've all made the mistake. But are you learning from the mistake? Are you making the separation between a failed romantic relationship and the responsibilities as parents? Are you making that distinction? Are you establishing the boundary? Because that's what has to be established. Keep riding on old stuff ain't happening. But that's the kind of conditioning that you put upon children. They see it. They learn to deal with their situations in the same capacity. It happens in the most subtlest of ways because we attempt to avoid that which we disliked about our parents or our caretakers, and we tend to adapt to that which we do like. Those things that we didn't like don't necessarily mean that those were things that your parents did that were wrong. It just means that you were in disagreement with those things. It just means that you had a different perspective of those things. That's all. And as children, we have a whole different lens that we look at the world through. As children. Because as children, we have that extreme side of self-centeredness. And some of us never outgrow that self-centeredness, even coming into adulthood. But as children, it is so prevalent. Right? Because you see it in the behaviors towards one another. It's almost termed as being cocky, as being arrogant. But that's youth. That's that youthful energy. That's that confidence. And what happens is along the way, that confidence begins to get broken down. And most of the times it's broken down in the household. Boy, what's wrong with you? Put that doll down. Boys don't play with dolls. But you just bought him a G.I. Joe. What is a G.I. Joe? A doll. It's an action figure. It's a damn doll. But he can't pick up Ken and play with his sister so he can be Ken and his sister can be Barbie. Or because if he picks up Barbie and he starts acting like Barbie, then you got a problem with that. But he's acting out with Barbie those things that he sees from his mother, his caretakers, his sisters. He's acting out those things. That doesn't have anything to do with his sexuality. That has everything to do with him learning and understanding a girl. But your own homophobia prevents you from allowing him to come to an understanding, because that's how relationships are learned. It's a form of therapy. When you take a family of dolls and you put them before two children, you can see how those children interact with those images, those beings, and you can make a clear decision on what route you need to take to help that family just by seeing them playing with dolls. See, you're not learning. Most of us are not learning about our children and how they see the world. We're defining how they're supposed to see the world. And then when they don't see the world through the lens that we attempt to give to them, then we're somewhat like offended. And then we start distancing our own self from our own child because that child is in disagreement. Always along the way losing their independence. This is a great part of the problem. We're raising mini me's. That's all we're doing. So we're going to see both sides, the good and the bad. Oh, I'm sorry, there's another side too, the ugly. We're going to see the good, the bad, and the ugly of ourselves through our children. Through our children, we're going to see those things. And in many cases, we don't like what we see. But when it comes to our males, yo, man, there's a whole lot of work that has to be done. There's a reason why that young man is so angry. There's a reason why that little boy is so enraged. And we tend to, want to say, well, it's because of his father. His father don't do this. His father don't do that. Or, well, I can't do these things, on my own. I got to be the mother and the father. I got to do this and I got to do that. But you're not listening to what it is that you're saying, how you've internalized that situation. Listen to how you're internalizing the situation. And you can only imagine how that child is internalizing the situation, because it's internalized differently by each child. It's internalized differently by each individual. I may, be ready to just move forward and get things done in spite of my father's presence. But I'm moving on in my own way. How am I moving on? You don't ask that question. You just say, oh, he don't miss it. He don't miss his father. Look at him. He's all right. You don't know that. We're not having that conversation. And regardless of what I tell you as a child, most times I'm going to tell you, that I love my father. But because you hate my father, because of the failed romantic relationship, you continue to instill in me that hate in different little ways. Even if you don't say it directly to me, you talk on the telephone. I hear the conversation between the two of you. I see the interaction between the two of you. I do know right from wrong. I may not know it through an adult lens, but from a child's lens, the child is unscathed of societal ills and biases and all this other nonsense that we put upon them later on as things go along. But they can make the distinction between right and wrong. Yeah. And again, remember the smile. It's something about the smile that we are conditioned by to believe that if there's a smile there, the smile is an implication that it's a good thing, right? That's why we never see that knife coming in our back from those who are close to us. We never see it coming because they smile in our face. Yeah. The backstabbers. Yeah. So everything that comes along with a smile, we later learn ain't always a good thing. But when you're conditioned to believe that, that's what you internalize. And that's how you see life as a child. And you continue to, age, and you continue to see the smile, and you continue to equate that with love. Yeah. See, you put those things together. Love is a hug, a smile, right? A gift, right? Here's something. Here's some candy. Here's a bracelet. Here's a dress with a smile. Yeah. Right? So when you look at our males today, how many of them are smiling? Think about it. How many do our males do you see walking around smiling? People often say to me, "You don't smile. You need to smile more. You need to." Why? Why? Is that for you or is that for me? Right? And this is important to understand because males aren't conditioned to smile. We're not. My mother used to take pictures. Well, my mother would take pictures. Every time you come over her house, you better have your stuff right because she's taking pictures of you. So you can sit down and you can huff and puff and stick your lips out. But you go to mom's house, mom got cameras always. She got some kind of camera. She used her phone a lot, but she got a camera. You taking pictures. But she had us taking pictures young, right? She would pose us and stuff like that. I was hoping one day to see myself on the cover of a magazine or something. But she always took pictures and she would always say, "Smile, damn, you don't never smile." And she always, listen, I don't know why. It could have been the pain in the womb. It could have been the pain, of loneliness. It could have been the pain of my father's absence, the pain of my environment, right? But I'm not going to give you an excuse or a justification or rationale. I am who I am. I am who I am. It's the heart that smiles. right? My love for God, first and foremost, right? So that's always a smile for me. But when you look at uh, facial expressions, am I smiling when you talk to me? How do I interact with you? That's what's most important. Because I can have the straightest and most serious of face, and you come up and say, "Good morning, how are you?" And I'll be like, "Hey, how you doing? Good to see you." Now you're seeing something different. Oh, you should smile like that all the time. Well, I should walk around, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, 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 what's going on? Hey," I look a damn fool then. See, and that's what happened to males. Males begin to look at their peers, and they begin to see things in their peers, and they take that information that was given to them in the household by the male figure in the household. You know, how many times you see dad smile? You may see him laughing, joking, and whatnot, but then when you see dad, and dad looks corny because everybody else out there looks tough, that smiling is not equated with being tough. But we all know we had our brother, may the peace and blessings be upon him, Muhammad Ali, always talked about how pretty I am. I'm pretty. I'm pretty. And he would tear your ass up in that ring. In that ring. Smiled all the time. Smiled all the time. Right? But, you know, in moments of necessity. But what necessitates a smile? When you grow up as a male, especially a black or brown male in our society today, right? There are things that are equated with toughness. And even though it's misinformation, even though there's no facts to support it, it's the information that we get. You had to stroll. You had to have a scowl on your face. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's up, man? You know, you had to look like he was tough. Like you had to, you know, what's up, man? And like that had this cool look about it, or had this tough look, right? I strolled so much when I was younger that right, I'm trying to get my arms down. I had to work to get them down because I had that hook, right? I had that hook. I wasn't no tough guy, but I began to emulate those things around me. I began to emulate those things around me. Those people around me who had that look. Yo, he looks so cool. They'd be like, yo, here come Mike. Yo, they go Thump. Look at Thump. He cool. Look at him, right? And you say, yo, he's cool. He is. He's cool. He's like he almost slid across the ground, right? It was just that cool. We begin to say things. We begin to do things. We begin to smoke. We begin to drink things, right? Because we went to homies because that's what's up. That's what's cool, right? And that's, you know, the girls liked it, but you didn't understand that there were different kinds of girls, like there were different kind of boys, right? There were good dudes and bad dudes and ugly dudes, and there was good girls, bad girls, and then there was just the ugly girls. And I don't mean in the physical sense, I mean in the heart, right? In the mind. That's what I'm talking about, right? So you have to look at all these things because all these things are important to emotional intelligence. And I often tell people that that was one of the reasons why when I looked for the slogan for Daddy's Right Here, you know, becoming physically and emotionally available popped right into my mind. Popped right into my mind. Because for so many years of my life, right, with my children, I was physically available. I was physically available. You know, I did the hair, I cooked, you know, I made sure their clothes and stuff was ironed. I did homework and all that stuff with them. And then after they went to bed, I went out the door. I was a beast. I was a whole different dude, right? But so I was physically available to do those kind of things. Emotionally, I was a mess. I was a mess. And I had to learn throughout the years to manage that mess. Much of the mess that I had made of my own life because, I rolled out when I was early. I wanted to be in the street. I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that. And I took on a whole lot of other things and got my heart broken and so on and so forth. And, still getting my damn heart broken. But, I'm not a mess anymore. I'm not a mess anymore. But that doesn't mean that my life is not impacted anymore by some of the things that have presented, in these marriages throughout all of these years. But I say all that to say, and I got off track. We have to begin to look at very closely what's going on with our males. You don't know what it's like, right? A lot of things happened in the street. Didn't come home and tell mom. If dad was there, probably wouldn't have came home and told him either. We got to handle it. We on the street. And we keep talking to these young boys, telling them, y'all need to put these guns down. Y'all need to do this. Y'all need to do that. They ain't going to put them guns down. Not when you got dudes my age, 40, 50, 60 years old, out there on the corner about their game life. Coming at them. Rolling up on them. Right? Shaking them down. Right? They ain't putting them guns down. They're going to take it to you. And we don't understand the mindset there because you ain't in the street. You ain't in the street. I was going back and forth to school having to deal with that stuff. I wasn't about that life. You know, when I was in my younger years, going back and forth to elementary school. But that environment forced me, right, to deal with things, to handle things. And you become somebody totally different. And again, you're being conditioned by your environment. You're being conditioned by the one you live in. You're being conditioned by the one you have to survive in. And they ain't coming home talking about it. That's why it's so important that you create an environment where you're having conversation with your children, especially boys. Especially boys. You got to get boys away from that conditioning of not talking about things, of stuffing things, and wait until they explode, because that's what you have. You have a lot of boys exploding. Yeah. They're exploding. Damn, that was hot. I didn't know I heat it up so much. You have them exploding. And then when they explode, right, for the black and brown male, we wind up locked up because we act out. We hurt somebody, or somebody hurts us, or we tear some stuff up. We violate the law, right? We violate the law. And instead of understanding that if you continue to act this way, there's only one or two ends to this, right? You're either going to be in prison or you're going to be dead. That's going to be the outcome. And when we look at how males are being conditioned, right? What role are you playing in contributing to that demise? What role are you playing? What role? I don't have any sons. I have all daughters. I have all daughters, right? I have grandsons, right? And their moms and do a really good job in allowing them to be boys, allowing them to be boys, teaching them to be boys. But the reinforcer is the male figure, because that's what the boy begins to identify with at a certain point in his age. And that starts happening real young. And we talked about that in the previous show. Boy begins to look at other boys around, look at his peers, and begins to size himself up and see where he fits in. You know, that what swagger best meets, you know, his needs, you know, where he wants to go. He's going to go that route. Right. It says it here in the article. So again, going back to the article, bigeqcampaign.org. And the article is Boyhood, Manhood, and Emotional Intelligence. Why do we shortchange our boys? And listen, it's a conversation that people just don't have. And it's mind blowing that as many times I have posted this little short piece about my upcoming film, Words from the Wise, the Boyhood Chronicles, and I speak to boys being sexually molested. It's like you hear crickets, man. You hear crickets. But as soon as somebody mentioned R. Kelly, everybody all up on it. You got all kind of posts. You got all kind of things being said. All kind of stuff being said. But you hear crickets when it comes to talking about molestation and boys, right? Even with the whole Catholic Church thing, right? Oh, it got all blown up. You know, this is happening in the Catholic Church. That's happening in the Catholic Church. Ain't no movement been formed. Ain't no conversation being had about it. It gets brushed right back under the rug. And we know we live in a male-dominated country. And we know that so many things are controlled by males. Therefore, it's not going to happen. What is it going to take? That's the question you really have to ask yourself. What is it going to take for boys to stop being shortchanged? What is it going to take, man? You know, I used to be a boy, in case y'all didn't know. And I think back to all the things that I experienced as a boy. And society is so mean to us as males. And even though, yes, you know, there's still that divide, there's still, you know, the male and the female workplace environment stuff for males to this and that, you know, but it's a rough road. It's a rough road. It's a rough road. And it's even rougher when you have to keep things to yourself because you've not been conditioned to have conversations. To not have conversations with others, especially with other males. Especially with other males. And this is why it's so important that this part of the article I'm going to get ready to get into. It's real important to understand that boys need an outlet like everyone else. And it's not always about the jock kind of stuff. It's about real stuff. It's about talking about their relationships with one another, their relationships with girls, and not in the capacity of, man, go ahead, man, listen, you don't need that. Go ahead. So-and-so over there, she waiting for you. Go ahead, hit that, man, because she been liking you for a so you just keep moving on and you keep moving on and you keep moving away. You don't deal with the pain, right? The reality of your own life. You really hurt because you and Mary broke up, right? You heard about that, right? You devastated by it, but your homies, they tell you to do something else, right? So to this article about emotional intelligence and why are we shortchanging boys, which we've been going over for the last few weeks. The next area on here that I want to cover before we wrap this up is cultivate boyhood relationships, right? To the article, the best way to let a boy practice and develop his emotional intelligence is through natural, organic, peer interaction. Encourage your child to interact freely with kids his own age. It's entirely like that. He's engaging in these friendships on his own at school. But if your child has introverted tendencies, it can take some extra effort to guide him into developing relationships. And it's important to understand what an introvert is and what an extrovert is, right? Introvert is a person who stays inside, who stays to themselves, who doesn't express a lot of anything to anyone. He may gravitate towards one or two people, you know, but it's good being by himself, right? Not very outgoing, not that kind of go-getter in terms of, you know, connecting with other people. I'm good, you know. Then you have some people who are like the center of attention. They all happy-go-lucky. They out there with everybody. Yo, what's going on? You always hear them. You know, they're right there. They're right there in your face kind of people. You need to understand what your child is. Is your child more introverted or extroverted? And stop co-signing. Oh, it's okay. You just don't feel like I'm like that too. I don't feel like being bothered with people. We ain't talking about you. Remember early on, I talked about influence, right? Don't influence and impress upon somebody something that is not good. It is not healthy because that's what you choose to do. That's what you choose to do. But we live in a day and age where being engaging with others is of the utmost importance because that's how you get ahead. That's how you get ahead. You have to interact with others and you have to appropriately interact with others. Back to the article. According to applied psychology and adolescence expert Niobe Way in her book Deep Secrets, boys are at their most emotionally available when they're still young. In elementary school and middle school, boys describe their relationships with other boys as fundamentally important to their everyday life, with one child saying that he would go wacko without the support of his same-sex friends. Yet, as boys, they develop tendencies to isolate themselves from other young men. Starting in high school, when the social differences between boys and girls becomes the most stark. Yeah, you need to understand that. See, in elementary school, it's cute, it's fun. Middle school, it's still cute and fun, and some things begin to connect. But when you get up into high school, it's a different realm of living. It's a whole different realm of living because that's where it's really going on. I ain't telling you these middle school kids ain't got stuff going on because you go into middle school, it's like, damn, what the hell are they feeding these kids? Right? But when you go into high school, it gets beyond that because you start seeing these young adult behaviors. You start seeing the young adult attitudes. You start seeing a more refined and defined person. And you can get lost real quick. You can get lost real quick if you don't have good socialization with good same-sex individuals. And some people say, well, I do better talking to the opposite sex. That's part of the dilemma. That's part of the dilemma. You should be able to interact comfortably with the same-sex person. I should be able to like bust it up with my man. Yo, man, I'm telling you, man. Oh, man, I was crying all night, man. I'm straight up, man. It's like, yo, it's hard. It's hard being a male. It really is. Because you don't know what to be because you get so many messages. And then you get to a high school level, you start getting different messages from these girls who are young adults. They're young adults. They're still children to us older folks, but they're young adults. Because they done did the tween, and doing the teen, and now they're entering into young adult. And not predicated on an age, predicated on the developmental cycle of the human being. Okay? Back to the article. Combat this tendency by giving your boy plenty of opportunities to keep socializing with boys his own age. And most importantly, model the behavior you want him to see. Speak freely about your own friendships and the important role they have in your life. Even if you're female, you can still speak out about your own friendships and encourage him to maintain his own. Tell him how happy it makes you to see him thriving when he spends time with his best friends. I can count how many friends I've had in my life on one hand. And I can only count about half of that one hand as best friends. As best friends. Throughout all of my life. And the reality of it is, had I had the opportunity to as a boy, as a young boy, right, to be around other little boys. My relationships with other males in terms of um, how do I say this? Affectionate relationships, intimate relationships with other males, right, would be much different. So when you are conditioned to be isolative, when you are conditioned to be alone, right, that conditioning becomes part of how you develop relationships with other males, right? It's not saying the same is not true for females. I'm talking about males right now. But when you begin to go out into the street and you see what street life is about, you automatically go out guarded. It's automatic. So you go out guarded. You begin to, like I said earlier, you begin to take on this swagger of surviving the streets because you know people try you. They want to try you. They want to step to you. They want to come with the knucklehead stuff. So now you take all that you had already been given and you go into the street and you have no information on how to have other kinds of relationships. So that's why it's important that you let your son have a friend that comes over so they can chill, have dinner together, right? Not just come over and be on the game station all the time, but come over and have dinner, sit with your family and chill, right? Because that's an important piece of the relationship. Because families are so splintered already, right? Because we've gotten to this point where we don't trust other people's kids, or we don't want to deal with other people's, other kids' parents and stuff like that. We don't have our children together in the family environment. We don't have them, and many kids don't have a family environment because there's so many homes that are broken, that are only single parent driven. So they come to your home, and here you got a whole family, right? That's important. But to be in the, whether a father's there or not, or whether it's just not a mother there, but just be able to sit in the house and have dinner together. That's important stuff. We can all talk, sit down and talk together, and you can see where your son's relationship skills are, with his male friend. But again, it just goes back to, if you got your own, phobias, your homophobic condition, then you teaching your son to act a certain way and be a certain way, then he can't have intimate relations with his male peers because of your own fear. Because of your own fear. It has nothing to do with sexuality. Intimacy is not just sex. Intimacy is sharing your most innermost thoughts and feelings with another person. It ain't sex. That's another part of the confusion as well. When you talk about being intimate with other men, right? But we don't see it the same way. Oh, women, they can hug each other, they can kiss each other, they can put their head on each other's breasts, and you don't see them as being lesbian. You just because it's your own fantasy in your own mind where that's what's up. Ooh, that's so actually. But two men, when we had that image of the athlete who walked by and put his hands on the dude's face and told him to lift his head up and whatnot, like we saw that, right? And so many, you see the comments that went along with that. That's a shame, man. He's lifting his brother up. He loves his brother. He supports his brother. Like, dude, come on, we in this. But you hear all the homophobic statements that came out as a result of that, right? That's so weak. It is so weak, man. And that only adds to the poor conditioning of the male. Because if I hug my brother, right, I'm something wrong with me. I'm gay. It's just stupid. What does one sexuality have to do with having human interaction? That's all that is human interaction, right? I wish my father would hug me more. I wish, I would have got more hugs from those males around me, but because of their own conditioning, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. And we really need to take a look at, what it is that we're doing with our males, man. Hug your young men, man. Stop making them feel like, male to male intimacy is something that's wrong. It's not. There's nothing wrong with it at all. That's your own phobia that you're conditioning your child to have. Therefore, they're never going to express themselves because that's all they keep hearing. That's all we keep hearing. Don't cry. Don't do this. Don't do that. You go out there, you fight them. I don't want to fight. As a human being, I have fight or flight. So, like, I choose to fight right now. It's going to be a time where I ain't going to have no choice but to fight, and I'm going to do so. But I'm a roll. I don't want to fight. I want to fight. Are you going to fight? Well, yeah, maybe not maybe one day, but not today. I don't feel like it. And then when he let that beast out, you can't control it anymore. Because now you done told him. You done told him for years. Somebody put their hands on you, you make sure they never raise that hand again. And the beast is out. The rage is on. And that's how I deal with everything. Ragefully. Angry, angry, angry. Hurt something. Hurt somebody. Yeah. And that's how I wound up. Either dead or in prison. Make sure y'all get a copy of my book, Code Black. It'll tell you a lot about the conflicts, controversies, and conditions that lead so many of our black males out of the family, especially into incarceration. Check the book out. Right? Check the book out, please. Back to the article. Another significant problem when it comes to emotional expression is that boys just don't know how to do it in a socially appropriate way. It's commonplace for boys to get into trouble at school for expressing themselves through outbursts of violence. And unfortunately, not common enough for those boys to receive the emotional help that they need. You know what emotional help for that kind of behavior is? Yeah. Prison. Getting thrown out of school. That's what kind of help you're going to get. That's the kind of help that boys get. That's not fair. It's not fair to that boy. He doesn't know any better. You say, oh, well, he old enough to know better. How is he old enough to know better? He was conditioned to be as such. Now you want to say he's old enough to know better? No, that is what I know. That's what you conditioned me to do. Now you want to tell me how wrong I am for doing what you conditioned me to do, what society has conditioned me to do. Now you want to tell me that I'm wrong. But how many hugs did I get from you, Dad? How many talks have we had on a regular basis, Dad? How many times did you tell me it was okay to cry? How many times? How many times did you tell me when I got all beat up because I went out and fought this boy that was 3 times my size? How many times did you tell me it's okay? You win some, you lose some. How many times did you tell me that? We hear all the time, more often than I care to say. You go back out there and you handle your business. So you're teaching me to be violent. But not only are you teaching me to be violent, you're teaching me to take a life. To take a life. I grew up in the days of fair ones. It's a fair one. You take an ass kicking today, you give an ass kicking today. Whatever it's going to be, we're going to keep on moving. But it was a fair one. It's not like that today. Back to the article. Help him learn safe strategies and outlets for expressing his emotions in a pinch. It's not always appropriate to have a crying or screaming fit at school. So teach him what to do when something emotionally volatile happens in a public place. And you know, it's funny because you know what usually the emotionally volatile situation is that happens in a public place? is you knocking him on his ass. That's usually the outcome. Because I'm having a fit. I'm in my feelings. And you telling me I'm acting like a little girl. Stop acting like a sissy. Shut up, crying. But my sister don't hear that. I hear it. I hear it as a little boy. And then you wonder why I'm snapping because she just did the same thing and I just got the crap knocked out of me. I'm acting like a girl. Well, how am I supposed to act when I want something? She wants something. She acts this way. It's the way I'm supposed to act that's different than her to get what it is that I want to. So usually that's what the volatile situation is. Your reaction to me being emotional. So you can be inappropriate because you're the adult. I can't be emotionally inappropriate because I'm the child. Listen, we got to get this thing together, man. We're getting close to the hour, so let me scroll on down to the bottom here because we're in the last paragraph. So for children, back to the article, of any age, seeing a therapist can be hugely beneficial in teaching emotional expression strategies, even if there isn't an underlying emotional or psychological problem. Therapy can help a child learn the emotional vocabulary necessary to express how he's feeling and why. And it can help him learn internal and external coping strategies. So emotional expression never escalates to public anger, temper tantrums, or other socially inappropriate behaviors. One of the things that I've said throughout all of the years, and for those of you who don't know, I'm a clinician. I've been a clinician for 25 years. Substance abuse, mental health, overall behavioral health. And here's one of the things I can tell you, right? I was told in my first, my undergrad studies that the best clinicians are those who try therapy themselves. Those who try therapy themselves. You don't have to have psychological issues. You don't have to have psychiatric issues. We all have something going on, right? And to find a neutral person to have a conversation with, to bounce things off of, is very, very healthy. When we look at our young males today, we look at ourselves as adult males. We need to really ask ourselves, what has been ingrained within us? What is it that keeps us locked into that concrete bunker of rage and anger? And that those are the only two things that we have been conditioned to express in our lives. What can we do? Therapy. There's so much counseling out there that's available that insurance covers, that if you're uninsured, there's coverage there, right? But you need to begin to grab hold of those young males. Love them. And I'm talking to the men right now. Love them. Hold them. Let them see that it's okay. Show them. Remind them. But most importantly, you have to demonstrate it. You have to demonstrate it. It sounds real cool, real hip, real fly when you sitting down telling them, you know, I love you. But how are you showing that love? And there's so many images that I've seen of late with fathers holding their sons, kissing their sons on the forehead, right? Holding their son's hand, right? Sitting out doing things, creating those moments where we can sit down and we can talk. Making that an open door policy, right? That anytime you want to talk, I'm never too busy to talk to you. Come on in here. Let me put this thing down right now. Let's talk. What's going on? And stop giving them, yeah, well, you know, all you got to do. No, just listen. Listen. Listen, not just with the ear. Listen with the mind, because in the mind, there are things that you have endured as a male that you endure every single day. Come to understand where that male is and stop always having an answer. You don't have to have an answer for everything. Sometimes, man, our young boys just need to talk. They need to get it up off of them. They need to get it up off of them. And you ain't always got to have the answer. Sometimes the answer could be just you sharing your experience. And stop trying to give your experience from an adult perspective when you're talking to a 5-year-old, when you're talking to a 10-year-old, when you're talking to a 15-year-old. Stop trying to give them that conditioning that you have right now. Let's talk about what it was like then. Talk about what it was like then. We always trying to give help to somebody from where we are right now. Well, you are always right there. What was life like for you when you were 5? What messages were given to you when you were 5, when you were 10, when you were 12, when you were 15? What messages were given to you? And how did those messages work for you in your life? Sometimes sometimes you ain't always got to go into this whole intellectual sword fight trying to tell the child, oh yeah, well, y'all young boys this and y'all young boys that. No, well, when I was young, I did some of that too, man. Yeah. I thought I had to carry a knife. I thought I had to do this and I thought I had to do that. And I never even used it. I can tell you how many times I carried, y'all. When I never had to use it. I never wanted to use it. I carried it because I felt safe with it. But what would you feel like? What would I have felt like if I had to use it? It took a life. Gotta have conversations with our boys, man. Have to. Gotta talk to them, man. We grow up hurt males, man, and it don't. And it's a small part of it that has to do with failed relationships, failed intimate relationships with, our partners. It has little to do with that. That just adds on to everything else. It doesn't make us healthy partners when we are conditioned that way. We're not good partners for anybody, even ourselves, because of the way we're conditioned as males. Because we have so much that we have to sift through because of the poor messages, the mixed messages that we continue to receive. And if I'm a boy, why are you teaching me about manhood as a boy? You show me manhood in your actions. You teach me boyhood. You teach me how to be a male. You teach me how to be a good person. You teach me how to love other people. You teach me how to show love, right? You teach me that by showing me, not just telling me. You teach me how to be sensitive to the needs of others. You teach me those things. You teach me to help my sister. You teach me to help my mother. You teach me to help my friend. You teach me how to nurture relationships with other little boys. You teach me those things. You let my friends come over. You teach me how to be with them, how to be fair with them, how to not always be fighting with them, arguing with them, because you don't always have to be posturing with one another. Y'all supposed to love each other as brothers. You teach me those things. But you teach me those things and you reinforce it with your own behavior. With your own behavior. You can't be having me riding next to you in the car and you cussing dudes out and this and this and this and that. This old Negro doing this old Negro doing that, and these Negroes. You can't. You send it a mixed message again. Either you for it or you're against it. And if you're against it, stop preaching it in your conduct. Stop preaching it in your conduct. It's real important to understand. Listen, as always, I greatly appreciate everybody who joined in, on Instagram. Thank you so much. You can be doing anything else on a Sunday morning than sitting here listening to me. Everybody on YouTube, even those of you who don't have the opportunity to join in for the live show, for those of you who continue to go to the Sabir educational station, thank you so much. I've been doing this since 2006. I try to remain consistent with it. It's not about me. It's about us. When I do these shows, I'm learning stuff about myself. I don't sit down and read the article and do it. I just glance over an article. I think of a topic I want to cover. I glance over the article. So when I do these shows, man, I'm learning with you. I'm learning with you. I'm only utilizing my clinical skills, my knowledge of behavioral health, human development. I'm just using those things to present it in a manner that I feel is an effective learning method so people can better understand themselves, right? But I learned so much myself, man, right? And it brings back up a lot of stuff in my heart when I'm talking about boyhood because um, of the challenges I experienced as a boy. But as always, thank you all. God bless. Peace.